This is English shorthand dictation number 241. Dictation speed 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. Sir, I have great sympathy for the Honorable Finance Minister because this particular bill is the final event in a series of events. So, this is really the last of the hurdles for the Finance Minister and the journey on which every Finance Minister starts in the month of February quite often goes on till the middle of May. We are therefore keeping occupied a very important minister. This is not a subjective or a personal observation. All finance ministers have had to do it. For about 6 months in a year, the finance minister of this country has to be engaged with the piloting of a variety of parliamentary legislations. Of course, the parliament is supreme. Of course, it is his responsibility, but it makes me wonder if this is really the most efficient or the best way for us to manage the whole structure and system of finance ministry's functioning. Sir, I will not go into many specifics. I have some broad observations to share with the House as also with the Honorable Finance Minister. All of them are my personal observations. They are not my party's considered viewpoint or position. I do not claim that I am economist or a specialist in this complex subject. I think the problem is that there are too many economists. I really sympathize with the present distinguished incumbent of this portfolio because the finance minister's job is possibly the most thankless job, particularly in our government. It is thankless because everyone wants something from the finance minister, and quite often the Ministry of Finance, instead of being a ministry for the management of the country's economy, really becomes a ministry of grants. I say this seriously because it becomes a very sad devolution of the great importance of this ministry. Sir, it is astonishing to see how we are attempting to manage and govern the economy of the country. The Honorable Prime Minister is himself an economist. He has a committee chaired by a former governor of the Reserve Bank of India. It is called the Prime Minister's Advisory Committee. The Prime Minister has the Finance Minister. That is the system. I am not questioning why a Prime Minister should not take a decision, but when you take a decision and have a variety of committees to keep feeding information to only one source, which is the Prime Minister's office, the buck does not go any further than that. In this particular situation that we have, it might travel a little bit of geographical distance from a particular address in Delhi to another address, but the responsibility really is theirs. Another anomaly is the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission seriously requires a relook and redefinition of its functions. It has really become a kind of pasture where you send out either some inconvenient politicians or some retired civil servants. So, in that process, a lot of people find their way into the Planning Commission. It does not do any planning. There is an annual battle that takes place between the Ministry of Finance and the Planning Commission. The Prime Minister is the chairman of the Planning Commission. It is not a good policy for finance ministers to keep arguing with the Prime Minister for almost 15 days. I sincerely think we have to readdress this whole thing. You have all these committees. I share this because I think every possible ministry in the government of India has changed or reformed itself. The Ministry of Finance has the same system which the British left behind. The whole structure was oriented towards meeting an imperial requirement, and therefore this system and the accountancy method has been there. I made an endeavor to address this question, but before I could arrive at any conclusion, I requested the distinguished economists to address this question and give us proposals. We need to convert the finance ministry into an instrument which is fit to meet India's requirements and the challenges of economic management in the 21st century. How are we going to do it? We had a broad structure and a principle. But before we could go any further, the electorate had decided otherwise and we were out of the finance ministry. This is the other thing that happened. On fundamentals, the structure or the system of management of the finance ministry does not really change. I could find many differences with the present government. This is one aspect on which I will share a few thoughts a little later, but I do think that this is important. Sir, as I said, the organization, the methods of working and the systems are struck with structures and systems of early 20th century. We need to address this seriously and we need to reform it and convert it into an instrument which is fit to meet the country's federal polity and federal requirements. So, the first requirement, the first reform, the first need is a reform of the mindset, no matter which government comes into office. If the mindset of all of us does not change and we do not become result oriented and accountable, we will every now and then come through a situation where we meet such obstacles and pitfalls. Sir, there is one more thought that I would like to share with the Honorable Finance Minister and the House. Sir, the country's economy has shifted gear and we are moving from an economy of shortages to essentially an economy of surpluses. The present situation is an interruption. It is a question mark. We are fundamentally a country which has already arrived at an economy of surplus. Earlier, we had a system of extreme controls. We introduced these multiple controls, killed the entrepreneurial skill because every control generates with it an underground system. You cannot prevent the genius of India from finding ways. I think the fundamental divide and the most painful divide is the rich-poor divide or the rural-urban divide. Sir, the Honorable Finance Minister is a lawyer of great distinction and he is also an expert in tax laws. What is crystal clear to him is very muddy to a layman like me. But as I said, it does also show that an amendment was needed. That leads me to the substantial part. It is so complex. Our laws are so complex and the totality of our income tax and indirect tax laws are so complex that possibly we provide huge incomes and huge benefits to all tax laws and at huge costs, but citizens were not given the benefit of tax laws. Now, I have not got a straight or immediate answer to this, but it is an aspect that all of us have to simplify irrespective of who the finance minister is and which government it is, if we do really wish to become a 21st century economic power. You make it more complex and it becomes absolutely turbid. You would not be able to see into what is intended. It is no use having such laws. Sir, I would like to congratulate the Honorable Finance Minister for giving a core thrust on growth with an inclusive perspective. Sir, I am not going to deal with all the aspects, but I would like to express some concerns while highlighting the various efforts of the government.